Hello everyone. I posted a video a few months ago where I downsolved ZZ in about 3 seconds. And I got a few comments asking how I was turning so fast with RUL. First off, it was a downsolve, so I'd practice everything a lot. That's sort of a given. I don't normally turn this fast, or precisely when I'm normally solving. Even so, my RUL was quite fast. I think this is in part due to both a certain way that I do regripless home grip L prime moves, as well as using that to cancel slice moves into rotations with simultaneous RL prime moves. So I wanted to make this video to show off the way that I do L moves. I think this is really mostly applicable to ZZ. I suppose it could be used in CFOP, though I can't see it necessarily being as useful since there are rotations, so doing regripless trips are much less useful since you're rotating around the cube anyway. And of course, rulers don't even know what L moves are, much less even turn the left side of the cube, so this wouldn't help them at all. First off, for normal RU turning, I have a standard home grip like this, with my left thumb here, and my finger in the back, and then these fingers on the right side, and my thumb here, and index is free to move around. When I solve as pairs lefty on the left side, I mirror that by shifting my right thumb here, and then my left thumb here, and these fingers in the back, and these fingers in the back, so just the same thing, just mirrored. However, if I were to solve this pair lefty with RU, I would do it like this. Now, what I did that's interesting here is I did this. Now this isn't actually that different from a normal L prime move. If you think about how you do that, you got your thumb here and your fingers in the back, and you do it like that, right? All I'm doing differently here is that I have my left thumb slightly shifted forward onto the F center instead of the LF edge. When I do an L prime turn, only these fingers in the back turn. Since I have my thumb on the center instead of the LU edge, I don't actually have to shift my grip. And when you undo the move with L, it's quite natural, just because it's just like that. You're turning these fingers already back here. If I want to insert this into the back, which is the same pair, using that same sort of trick with a regripless L, it'll be an L instead of an L prime. There's this finger trick from one hand that's called swag L. You take your index here in BLU and pull. So for this pair, it would look like this. Again. And then, so these from here pull down and then they just sort of reset. Now, since your thumb is still holding onto the cube, this finger trick is quite useful to execute simultaneously with an R move. I find this works best with anti-slice moves, that is to say, R prime, L prime, like this, or RL, as opposed to R prime L and RL prime, just because these can often be canceled into slice moves. However, they're still useful as they are. As such, it's particularly useful when you've got pairs in wrong diagonal slots. Now this particular trick isn't really that useful for EO-line since there's so much movement going on. You generally don't execute EO-line from home grip, as it's almost always better to start a rotation away so you don't have to do F or B moves. You can then just incorporate a wide arm move or just rotate back after you're done executing it. However, as a quick aside, swag RUL is incredibly useful for OH lines, but that's just to reduce things like Z, U prime Z, and it's still useful to execute it from an X rotation away and then cancel into rotating back. However, since the reason it's not good for EO-line is because it primarily uses home grip, it can be really useful for RUL algs, like this case, or this one. And anti-slice RL is really useful for algs like this one, or this one. I don't think this trick works that well with an alg like Nicholas, where you have a lot of L and U prime moves that both have to be handled with the left hand. It's just too awkward to try and deal with both of those. You can see at the end there's this big pause where I have to reset. I'd recommend just executing it like an RRUF, or just regripping. It's a short alg, but it's a really awkward one. Anyway, yeah, that's about it. I hope this helped, that it was practical, that you'll be able to add this to your arsenal of finger tricks and implement it in real time. Get out there and do better ZZ solves.